So, Cher, how did you find working with the single? Did it turn out the way you expected?
There was a lot of back and forth on the writing front, and I went back into the writing room quite a few times before it was actually finished. So this song had a lot of time and effort put into it, for sure.
Tell us a little bit about the writing process.
I definitely do 95% of my writing in recording studios. I tend to work best with other female writers, and I've worked a lot with female writers and producers on the upcoming album, whenever that's going to be released, I don't know. Yeah, I definitely work great with other females.
Am I right that the album doesn't have a name yet?
It doesn't have a name yet, and it doesn't have a release date yet, but I know that fans are so eager to hear it. So yeah, it's always at the forefront of my mind to get that finished and released as soon as possible.
I guess it's a silly idea, but you couldn't ask your fans to name it, could you?
I think it's a really personal thing to name an album, and yeah, it's an impossible decision-making task, I think. So it's going to take me a long time to figure that out.
Is it like giving birth in a way? It's like your child.
Oh no, I wouldn't say that.
I mean, I've never given birth, so I... No.
Oh, well, if you had, you'd know that it's nothing like releasing music.
Okay.
The anticipation is similar because you're waiting for that moment, but it's exciting. It's definitely really exciting to finally have your work that you've worked so long and so hard on be heard.
Seeing as I brought it up, you've just fairly recently had first child, I believe, working out for you.
Oh, it's amazing. I feel just so grateful that I had the opportunity to have my own child, and me and my husband are so happy that we have her. She just absolutely makes our life. She really does. She's going to be 2 on Monday. So, it's lovely to watch her grow up and, really get to know her personality. It's just wonderful.
Has it changed you, having her?
Yeah, I think it has. I think it's mellowed me. I definitely don't get hung up on the things that I used to worry about. It's just she has made it so much bigger, and she means more than anything. So, yeah, I just don't dwell or stress about the little things anymore.
I'm going to switch the conversation slightly because I read a article, a fairly recent one, where you're talking about how previously in the music industry, people had tried to get you to be something you weren't or get you to do things you weren't happy with. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think, it sort of came with being on a TV show at a very young age. From the very beginning, I knew who I was as an artist. I was very strong-willed, strong-minded. I had a vision of how I wanted to sound and how I wanted to look. But being so young, it was very difficult. It was very difficult because a lot of people were involved in the show, and there were stylists and there were, music people that would choose the songs. And I think a lot of my time on the show was spent with me sort of pushing back and sometimes being quite angry, quite sad. I didn't get to show who I was. But in hindsight, I look back and I'm like, oh, maybe that wasn't the best way to do it, because then I had years and years of trying to rebuild myself again to get people to understand who I really was. And that's been really difficult. And 10 years later, I'm still doing it.
Wasn't part of your attraction, though, in the beginning simply that you were who you were and you were forthright and you were straight, and that's what people were attracted to? Yeah,
I mean, I look back and I think it's such a shame that the reason why people did fall in love with me was that very first audition I did, where I chose my own song. I wore crazy jeans because that's what I wanted to wear. And then slowly, as the competition progressed, I wasn't quite me anymore. And that, looking back, it's really difficult, and it kind of doesn't really make any sense why that would be a good idea to do that.
I can tell you why. It's people justifying their job description.
Do you know what? So many times in this line of work, I've dealt with a lot of people that like to put their 2 pennies worth in just to justify their job. But if you keep your head down and you work real hard, still continue to be doing what you love.
Can I ask you what your plans are for the future?
That's a really good question. I really hope to be continuing to make music. It's definitely not as easy as it was when I first started out. It's really not. It's very heavily based on social media. When I began and we released records, they were heavily promoted, really heavily promoted. We did a lot of TV work, radio work. Now I feel like artists are relied on to just push some music through social media. And then it becomes a popularity competition on how many numbers and how many likes you get, opposed to the music being heard via other platforms. I'm just trying to get my head around that at the moment. I mean, when I started, I would go around every single radio station because I truly believe in going to meet people at radio stations. And you don't really get that anymore, And I miss that. I miss the human element of going to meet people and playing the music. I really, really miss that.
To be fair, though, you're not short of followers on social media.
I'm really lucky. I'm lucky to have built up such a huge fan base on social media. I really am. And I'm able to push my music through those platforms. I'm really lucky, but you think of new artists and you think how difficult it must be to have people solely rely on your social media when you don't have many followers. That must be just so difficult.
When I look at you, I see someone who, yes, is a great musician, but I always have a feeling that there's more that you're capable of doing besides music. Have you ever had a feeling to move in any other direction at any point?
That's a really good question. I think a lot of people wondered that about me. I think I'm the type of person that if you give me something to do, I will put all of my efforts into doing it to the best of my ability. So I do think if I was given the opportunity to whether it be act or dance or anything like that, I'd definitely give it my all. And I do really, really like a challenge. I really do.
I think you'd be a tremendous actress. Have you ever been offered acting roles?
I have in the past, but it just hasn't been the right time to take on an acting role. Just purely because I've been so busy with music. Music will always be my focus. But that's not to say that I haven't thought about other things. I'm really passionate about writing. I write a lot of songs. So I think it would be interesting to see where my pen takes me, whether it be writing a children's book or poetry or anything. But I'm always really open to trying new things.
I can't talk you into the acting profession.
I would do it, no, I really would.
What sort of part would you play?
I think I would be the best suited to a more emotional role, something a bit more like cutting. But then again, there's lots of villains that I think I would suit playing.
Are you aware of Ty Wilcox? She's sort of a musician from my generation.
No,
You're
I'm
not. She would, when would she be? The 1980s. And she kind of was a bit like you in as much as she was interested in forging her own path rather than being told what to do. And she was one of the first people who, for instance, had blue hair and stuff like that. She was also an actress, or is also an actress, and she ended up working people like Laurence Olivier, some of the biggest names in the business. She was always a musician first, and she still is, but she was able to kind of balance the two.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I'll have to look her up.
Might be interesting to you to see her because she's last generation's you can't say she was the Cher Lloyd, but kind of I can see the same tendencies there.